Two, one. Good evening, community and staff members, and welcome to FUSD's Equity Team meeting for April 20th, 2021. It's a little bit after 6 o'clock, and we're going to start this meeting. As you can see, Miss Letty Salinas is unavailable to be with us tonight, so I'm going to kind of try to do my best to facilitate this meeting. The first part of the agenda is the public comment. We did receive 7 public comment from the community, so I'm just going to read those. And excuse me as I have to scroll across my iPad to get all the written language. The first one is, hello, I am an FUSD educator. While I appreciate the committee's commitment to equity, the board has yet to demonstrate this commitment to the equity due to their failure to approve the BML statement sent to the board back in February. I would appreciate if this equity committee put more pressure on the board to approve the BLM statement. Thank you. Next statement is, thank you all for your dedication to defining equity and advocating for all students. This work is incredibly important, and your voluntary contributions to this effort are seen and applauded. I'm a little concerned by the time that has been dedicated to just the equity policy thus far. I acknowledge the challenge of ensuring that this policy is all-encompassing of identities and intersections. I would like to see some structural changes, but that will make sure the committee meetings are substantive and action-oriented. BLM statements was pushed to this committee from the board and has yet to be addressed after months. We need our district to stand as leaders in protecting and advocating for our Black and brown youth. I look forward to seeing more efficient systems within this group in the near future. Next one, thank you for your work thus far in the equity policy. The purpose of this committee is to advise and offer input on FUSC equity. You are charged with advising the board and or the superintendent directly on equitable outcomes in FUSD. In order to enact that purpose, committee members need sufficient understanding and depth on issues in order to provide perspective to the board and superintendent. The current structure of this committee does not provide reports to the board or produce recommendations. Please consider structural changes that will allow this committee to do the important work it has been tasked with. Considering that you are all volunteers, I would hope that your time is used effectively. Next. As a teacher in the district, I am happy to hear that progress has been made on defining equity. However, as an observer of the meeting, it seemed to take a long time within each meeting to develop the statement. Going forward, I would like to see meetings that are more action-oriented to avoid these pitfalls in the future and ensure that the time within each meeting is used effectively. This can hopefully help the committee take steps towards doing more of the great work that has already been started. Next one, thank you to the members of this committee for all your hard work. I'm concerned at the time committed to discussing the equity policy and the lack of attention given the deep-rooted inequities within our district. While I understand the importance of policy, I look forward to the committee moving forward to take action to make real change by looking at disproportionate discipline data, diversity curriculum, and how to hire and retain diverse teachers, leadership, and staff. Thank you. As an educator in this district, equity is near and dear to my heart. I want all of my students to feel safe, be protected in both action and policy, and given opportunities to thrive. Although I appreciate your hard work in reworking the district equity policy to encapsulate all intersections, I want to push for more expediency when it comes to issues of equity in the district. When I learned that for the 2016-2017 school year, while students with disabilities made up less than 10% of the district student population, They made up 47% of in-school suspensions and 42% of referrals to law enforcement. How can this stand? Is there a way for this committee to figure out how to work with more expediency? I am sure you will have the appreciation of many. Last one. Thank you for the working so diligently on the equity policy. I really appreciate the attention to detail and the extension of equity beyond that of race. That being said, the committee is supposed to act as a facilitator to the committee, but not work on the committee goals throughout the meeting. A committee should not spend 2 hours on working on grammar and wording of a resolution. Facilitators should make preparations before a committee meeting and efficiently guide the community's time. A committee's power belongs to its members. Members should collectively set an agenda and make recommendations to the board. I look forward to see more effectively run meetings in the future. Also pass BML statements. It is time. That concludes the public comments. I will make sure Ms. Salinas has a copy, and then she will put that in her records moving forward. So next on our agenda, and I know we need to thank Mr. Musto for showing up again. He was also here last meeting, but unfortunately we ran out of time. So we promised Mr. Musto he would be first on the agenda moving tonight. So we're going to give him around 40 minutes to go over some data and to answer any questions that might arise from that. I want to start by saying this is just the start of the data that we can collect for this committee. But I think at the end, maybe we could hear from other committee members of what type of data we would have Mr. Musto possibly collect for us if possible. So Mr. Musto, we turn it over to you now, and you should have access to share your screen if you choose to do so.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. No problem. Good timing there. I appreciate everybody for giving me a few moments to speak. In January, it was actually in December, the African American Parent Advisory Group had some specific questions about data, specifically secondary data. And Mr. Bailey, was this document going to be shared with the committee as well?
I think we can, as long as we make sure there's no identifiable things in there that would identify a student.
I think we're okay there. This is all general data. So they had some specific questions, about secondary representation and data scoring on standardized tests. So let me share with you what I compiled for them and just walk you through it. And then, like we just said, feel free to link this document on there. So it should be showing now. In the first tab, I put these websites here. These are really good references. If you're not familiar with the school, California School Dashboard, it's a great place to start, whether you want to look at district data or individual school data. DataQuest is another CDE generated place where we get a lot of our information from. And EdData is not directly from, it takes CDE data and compiles it into some different reports. Some really interesting stuff that you can find on EdData that they pull from CalPERS, which is the state data system. So good references if you're ever interested in wondering about how FUSD or specific schools are doing. Good place to start would be these places. So the first thing they asked about was the SAT and PSAT. Now I'm going to start with the PSAT because the PSAT up until 2019, obviously the pandemic has changed conditions greatly, but up until 2019, nearly every student in 10th grade took the PSAT. As a result of every student taking it, it gives us some real interesting data because you can all student groups are represented. So the source of nearly all this information is College Board. College Board is the company, I guess we'll call it, that runs the PSAT, runs the SAT, and it runs the Advanced Placement Program as well. So College Board provides these reports to our school district, and we've kind of compiled them together here. So first of all, you get an overall of 10th and 11th grade. In 10th grade, nearly every student takes the Psat in FUSD. In 11th grade, students can select to take the Psat or not, usually for the purpose of qualifying for the National Merit Scholarship Program. So we have about half of our 11th graders take it and nearly all of our 10th graders. So this is overall district data. And then when you scroll down here, you will see broken down into individual schools between 10th and 11th grade as well. That goes for 2018 as well. So we've got the last 2 years. The next thing is the SAT. The SAT is, as I said, a College Board test. SAT up until really this year and actually next week, Fremont Unified traditionally has not administered the SAT ourselves. Students usually take it at different testing locations. Next week will be our first time administering the test first of all, in person, which will be unique considering the pandemic, but also administered by FUSD staff. So we're doing this because we were not able to offer the Psat in the fall, and because we wanted to give our 11th grade students an opportunity to qualify for the national merit. So they're able to take this SAT as part of that consideration. So the SAT, not all of our students take it. These are obviously our students who are college bound. And so you get a breakdown by student ethnicity here. And then if you go down a little further, they have breakdowns by different sections within the SAT. The ACT is, as we remember from high school ourselves, the ACT, if you didn't take the SAT to go to college, you took the ACT. And that's actually, ACT is not a College Board company. They are actually owned by the same corporation that owns the Washington Post. And so they have a little more comprehensive data that they provide us. So again, breakdowns by student groupings as well. One thing you'll notice here is if it says NA for numbers that are smaller, a reporting practice that we have in California actually is that if it's a group depends on whether you're talking about a school or a district, but if it's less than 11 or less than 30, we generally do not list the results. Because we're talking about the district, we're doing less than 11. So we did not include those if the numbers were small enough. Next, this is AP data. So this is AP, students who are taking AP. This gives you a perspective about how many students within Fremont, within California, and with the United States are taking AP tests, which is obviously a rather large number. And then when we scroll down further, we can get a breakdown of AP data. And this is from 2020, so last year's. Obviously a unique year since students took the AP test at home for the first time. And you get a breakdown by student ethnicity groups as well. We further broke it down here with multiple, able to see it in a little different way. Thought this was a little more user-friendly. One of the things we did is we did a breakdown of percentage of students who took an AP test by race and ethnicity. So what this means is that of the American Indian students we had in FUSD who were within the age ranges to take AP test, 43% took an AP test. American Indian is a smaller group of students. Asian students are our largest group in Fremont Unified. And so 36% of students who were eligible to take an AP test took an AP test in 2020. And then you see other student group, race and ethnicity groups represented as well. Finally, this was kind of the end of the data that I collected for APAC. But they had the main question they had is, what does our enrollment look like in AP and honors courses? So after the meeting, our department did a breakdown of this. These are based off enrollment 126. So it's really at the end of the first semester for most of our high schools, most of our secondary schools. So at the top, you see honors and accelerated math course enrollment. So you get your numbers there. And it's broken down not only by student ethnicity, but some of the other student groupings that the state of California does are special education students, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and English learners. We also had a gender breakdown as well. Specifically for AP courses, since most AP courses, with a couple exceptions, are grades 11 and 12, you have a breakdown here of total enrollment for 11 and 12, and then breakdown for AP enrollment, so students who are in AP courses. So AP without duplicates, what that means is that if I'm a student at, say, American High School, usually students are enrolled in more than one AP course in 11th and 12th if they're taking AP. So this is out of the 5,221 students on 126, 3,000 of those students were taking at least one AP course. So I just threw a bunch of numbers and graphs at you. Had a really nice discussion with the APAC about this data and the information within it. Generally, my statement is our job is to provide the data. I mean, I'm a former principal, so I have a lot of thoughts about what the data means. But my job is more to provide the information and just to help your discussions as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about this or anything else.
Thank you, Mr. Musto. If we could use our raise a hand feature that way. Okay, Allison?
I'm just wondering, is this like the class, or does this also include like the tests that the students took on their own outside of school?
Good question. So just as a clarification, students can take, self-study is a common term, and usually the students take those tests within the school that they're attending. This is all tests taken. So when College Board gives us this information, I, for instance, may have been in AP Physics, but I took an AP Chemistry test as well. That would be reflected on this report because it's any test taken.
Okay, thank you.
I was just, sorry, I didn't raise my hand. I was wondering if we could just get a link to this data.
Yes, I'll have Ms. Salinas linked at this sometime tomorrow. It will be linked. We'll send it out via email. Trustee Psat?
Well, Mr. Musto, you said that you're a data provider, but I'd like to get at least some high-level insights that you may have before the committee goes into discussion.
Sure. One thing that we talked about with APAC, just as a side note, I did put in the chat the link to this report, so you can have that now. Just as one of the conversations we had is the numbers are very clear. We have a disproportionate underrepresentation of certain student ethnic groups within our AP and honors courses. And the question is, how do we change that? How do we have our honors and accelerated courses more representative of our student population? The best suggestion that I have, speaking as someone who worked almost all exclusively at high schools throughout my career, is that we need to find ways to encourage students at younger ages to start thinking about honors and AP courses. So it's a delicate balance because we all know how student stress is in this district. As a social emotional learning is a topic that we have talked about a lot during the pandemic, and the last thing our students need is more stress. However, they need more encouragement as well. And so we need, if I could wave my magic wand, we would find ways to encourage all students, but specifically students of student groupings that are disproportionately unrepresented in our honors and AP courses at younger grade levels to start thinking about advanced courses, to start thinking about college. Certainly anyone who's been involved with schools for a while, sort of things like the Avid program. That's what Avid does, is at a younger age, you're trying to encourage students to start thinking about college. AP is one way of encouraging students to think not only about honors courses, but also success beyond that as well. So that'd be my not so easy to implement solution, but I think it is the one thing that is going to provide the results long term. is building a system where younger students have access to what AP is and why it's important that you try to push yourself towards that.
Right, and if there are any intervention that we can do early on, right, beyond encouraging,
Yeah.
is there a qualification issue as well, that when they get to the honors, when they get to a time to decide that they are falling behind or they have fallen behind
Yeah.
already and don't even qualify for it, right?
So intervention is obviously important. So let me, in my understanding of how we use the term intervention, I think maybe the more appropriate term would be enrichment. When we think about intervention, we're talking about students who are, perhaps at risk of not graduating. There are plenty of, most of our students who go through 4 years of high school at Fremont schools graduate in 4 years. There's a lot of good students out there. How do we make a good student into a student who wants to push him or herself into an honors course? That's where I think we see, and that in my experience as a principal, actually as a teacher as well, is the students who are underrepresented in these classes do not necessarily have the support or encouragement to take those classes. So it's not a, it becomes a, I fit in this box. I'm not supposed to go to this class. We have to find a way to break that. And that's not so easy to do because that is influenced by family, but it's also influenced by friends. And we all know, anyone who's a teacher knows how peer group pressure can impact both good and bad. One of the previous charts I showed you was our Asian students, who are about 36% of students in 11th and 12th grade take at least one AP test. That's outstanding. But it's also, I think, a representation of the pressure, not the pressure, but the expectation from families. And that expectation is also reinforced by their peer group as well. Again, if we could wave a magic wand, we want to make sure that it's representative to all. But that's not there right now. We have not found a solution where all students are feeling comfortable to take AP and honors courses, even when they're eminently qualified to do so.
And one more question before, now from the student group, I mean, does the school district have an idea of how many of them are trying to be college bound versus not? And do you have percentages based on how many students actually want to be college bound?
Well, that's a tough question. So we do know about college bound. One of the main metrics we have in our district is the A to G. A to G, for if you're not familiar with that term, that means that a student, when they graduate high school, is eligible to attend a Cal State or a UC campus. It's a very important metric within California. So that's how we would usually measure college bound. That being said, every student who is A to G doesn't necessarily go to a college, or maybe doesn't go to a 4-year college. One of the challenges we've had in our district, but also in California, and there's some efforts, and there's actually there's a program underway right now to build in more longitudinal data so we can track students after they leave high school and go to college. We don't have a lot of ways to track students once they leave after 12th grade. One thing we're hoping to see from California in the next few years is some of that longitudinal data. We do a survey of seniors when they leave FUSD, and we say, where are you going to? And so we get their survey data from that. But that's all self-reported. For right now, how do we measure college bound is usually A to G, which is the most important measure, and then the broader thing, which is called the College Career Indicator, which is represented in the California Data Dashboard. And it includes A to G with a few other metrics as well.
Okay, sounds good, thanks.
Any other questions in the to you for the committee. Ms. Arroyo?
I think I wanted to understand what is the outreach for some of our student groups who have very low representation on those counts in terms of educating families on what it means to take honors courses, what it means to take AP classes and things like that.
I will say, just based off my experience as a secondary administrator, the outreach is pretty limited. You would find examples of it with the Avid programs. You would find examples with it with MECHA, which is a group I think every campus now has a chapter of, and a Black Student Union as well. So those are ways that you can bring in students, but also bring in parents. They're often involved with both groups. But as I said, that those examples are pretty limited. I don't think we've comprehensively tried to do a full outreach, at least a systematic district-wide one. I think you will definitely find pockets of success, but it is limited to specific campuses. Unfortunately, our history, Mr. Bailey and I have a long history of secondary admin. A lot of our history has more been about setting up more barriers to AP and honors courses than it has been to encourage students to take them. It's been a big shift in the last 7-8 years on that. There's far fewer prerequisites than there previously were. The standard is still incredibly high, but there are no longer grade requirements. There are no longer things. Pretty much the only secondary course that students may be denied access to when they want to take it is the accelerated math program. So policies have changed to improve this. Outreach has not.
No, I will say, as one of our APAC, what we're going to concentrate on next year is informing parents. We're thinking about having an AP honors night. Also, historically Black colleges, having them come out 2 or 3 times a year as a whole district for our Black student population. So APAC is also addressing some of these issues when we start talking about making sure parents are aware of what choices our students have when they do that course request. They should be asking for honors and AP courses. So we are APAC is really trying to contact all the parents of our Black students. We have Napri.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Musto, for bringing in the topic of Avid. That was a great thing. I am very concerned that we have done away with Avid right now in Fremont schools in the past couple of years. And Avid is one of those programs that really, really helps our students especially the underrepresented ethnicities that we are seeing in the data, especially those who do not have examples of parents going to college or siblings going to college. Avid has been a great program. And unfortunately, in the past year or two, we had done away with it. So I think this is time for us to start rethinking if we need to have our outreach and we need to have, if we want to see an increase of numbers from different ethnicities, then we need to start looking at programs that really help, which are worthwhile. Secondly, junior high level, 7th, 8th grade level, in my research, in my experiences, in my research studies that I have done, 6th, 7th, 8th is a foundational level for secondary. If we do away with honors over there and are gearing towards just focusing on building the capacities of our students, even the students who are not fully represented, the ethnicities that are not fully represented, and build it up in those 3 years, and then let them go to 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th and have honors. Why not do it at that ways? Why are we having our students burdened with in 7th and 8th with honors right now? And I'm speaking from as an educator who has experience of over 18 to 19 years in this field now. So these are two things that I believe in Avid a lot. And Avid was used to give a lot of strategies that helped our students. Plus, I know new strategies are coming like UDLs and all. We need to start propagating those strategies in our middle school so that we are building the foundations of our students so that they are capable of going to, in high school, they're capable of going to honors. Like Mr. Mamasto earlier mentioned, that some of these students are not able to do it because of the lack of confidence. So let's build that confidence for our students. That is thing what we would do. And I don't know if, Glennis, do you agree with me on that?
I had I had a comment about sort of intersectionality and talking about our district's approach to inclusion and thinking about those students that are in some of those groups, students with disabilities, students of color, and thinking about how inclusion brings those students closer to the Gen Ed and Common Core standards. And so having more exposure to that through UDL and inclusive practices, I think also allows us an opportunity for students to see the possibilities. And so speaking behind Navpreet, who is an advocate for inclusion and a strong proponent and supporter and active member of the Horner team there, she is an expert. And I think that's something that to be looked at as well.
If I could have a quick word on Avid. And as we approach this work, I think we always have to think of systems as well. Bit of a bureaucrat here, but one of the challenges of Avid is, I was the principal that the Avid teacher would say, why, how many students do I need to enroll in order to float the Avid class? Because when you're a principal, a lot of times school enrollment or classes you offer is a numbers game. So obviously financial support of Avid is important. However, remember that if a student is going to take Avid, there's an opportunity cost there. And the cost is taking another elective course. That's a lot to ask of kids if they want to be in band, if they want to take French or whatever class they take. The 6-period day has limitations. Mr. Bailey's heard me advocate that we perhaps should look at different scheduling models. So, and that's just my position, and I don't want to force that on anyone. However, when you only have 6 periods, there is a limit. And a common refrain that I heard from students for many years was, I'd love to take Avid, however, I want to do this. Obviously, we've had a lot of conversations in this district about 0 period and 7th period. I think there's a limit to how effective 0 period and 7th period are to really cover those gaps there. I think we should try to, always try to provide students a 6-period day so that they're not having to take on extra coursework if they wanted to take Avid or something. Again, I'm editorializing a lot in this meeting. It's not something I probably should do, but I want you, if we're thinking about that, I think we should also think about the systems our students are in as well.
Thank you. Then we have Christina and then Navpreet.
I think my follow-up question is, I know I was asking about, parent education in terms of honors and AP, but I think that we all can recognize the emotional state of our students and being respectful of that, and the overwhelming sense of, oh my gosh, I have to take this amount of AP classes and this amount of honors classes. And that's not always what it's about. I think some of the data that I'm hoping to see is in that self-reporting of what their future steps are, because we have students in our district who have taken their courses, who have taken college bound classes, maybe not honors and AP classes, but they've still gone on to have very successful college opportunities or other technical, and I'd like to see that kind of data as well recognized, because we have diversity within that. And I don't think that, I definitely think educating families that they're aware of honors and AP opportunities, if that's the right step for our students, but we don't want our families to now be adding this immense pressure that their peers, like you said, a lot of times it's peers that are giving the pressure of, you have to take this amount of, how many APs, how many honors are you taking? But what's more important is the emotional state of our students, and looking at that data of the self-reporting, what their next steps are, to see how many of our student groups are having, leading fruitful lives and taking next steps that are right for them.
Yeah, and you underpin something that's very important, is that AP and honors is something that's very It's important to look at, and it's important, I think we try to encourage all students to take if they're interested. However, if you, the average student in Fremont Unified may not take an AP and honors course, they're still taking a college prep curriculum. We are still preparing them for college and career. So this idea that they have to take an honors or AP is not true. And I think we need to, that should be part of our messaging as well. One thing that I think we always try to do at the schools I work with is take the class if you're interested in it, not because you think you should take it. If you're really interested in chemistry, take AP chemistry. But if you don't love chemistry, maybe it's not the best course for you.
Okay, we have Napreet, then Stacy, then Allison.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bailey again. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Mr. Master. Clearly, that was very well said, Christina. Very well said. That yes, as a district committee, we should not just be looking and saying, oh, how many AP and how many honors are there? We should be making sure that all our students are ready to be college bound. And again, I brought up Avid. You're right, Mr. Master, that it involves a lot of money and everything, but the strategies are still there. Why cannot we make use of these strategies as our instructional practices right from the beginning? That doesn't cost any money to use those strategies. Something of those strategies we start using for our students and preparing them and building those strong foundations that we need to build so that our students are ready for college. So that's, I think we should look into that and think about what we can do and what strategies would work over there.
Thank you. Stacy, then Allison.
Just really quickly, as a parent that had two kids different objectives, both in college. One was the AP bound honors, one was just the regular college prep. We have to have these, I think encouraging kids to reach their potential is number one, but we have to also find that fine balance, like Christina and everybody was saying, to get kids to realize where their limitations is. Yes, challenge themselves, maybe take one or two APs in the areas of strength, but don't get pressured into taking AP chemistry if math is not a strength of theirs. So I think that's something we need to have in these parent presentations, that you can have kids, your own kids. Me as a teacher, I can kind of see, oh, this kid's stronger in English. I could see them later on as a kinder first grade teacher, probably being in the AP English. Oh, this one's really got the stems and the building. Oh, maybe we should be pushing this kid eventually into an AP physics. It's just fostering the kids and what they're good at and challenging them in those areas, but taking a step back and saying it's okay if you just take a regular class, because it's not all in numbers. It is a numbers game, but we want students to enjoy their high school lives and before they go out in the real world. And maybe the reason I parent my kids the way I did is my cousin took 6 AP classes his senior year, and he still tells me to this day, why did I do that? I didn't enjoy high school.
Yeah.
Or I didn't get to enjoy my senior year. And that took in a point for me as a parent on fostering my kids to do what was their strengths and then make sure that they could enjoy their high school years, because they're only 15, 16, 17, 18 one time. We want them to enjoy it and take risk, but with risk within reason so that they're successful. So I just wanted to get that point out as a parent and as an educator.
And then
Thank you,
Allison.
Oh, so I'm sharing my experience. I'm actually a junior right now. I'm in the middle of the AP madness, actually. So for my experience, like coming back to like a really early point that Mr. Musto mentioned, like, yes, it's a lot of peer pressure, but I think most of it is actually in the families. Like, in my friend group is very varied. Like I have some friends who are not taking any APs at all. Meanwhile, some of them have 6 weighted courses this year. So I think a lot of it is in the family, so we can't really change that. But one thing that I wanted to bring up about outreach is possibly you guys mentioned like presentations about like and encouraging students to reach their own potential in areas that they really enjoy. Like for example, AP chemistry was brought up a lot. I think I thought of one idea. Maybe we could get the AP teachers themselves, maybe to present to junior high students or freshman students. And like the AP teachers themselves know their course the best. They know how challenging it is. And also like they're really interested in it too. So I think if we have AP teachers go in to maybe freshman classes to talk about their classes, it would encourage the students to take their classes, but also the AP teachers could tell them like, hey, this is a challenging course, and like make them aware about the emotional struggles that they might have, just so the students can decide for themselves too. Because we don't want to push them to decide anything. We do want them to push them. We do want to push them to their full potential, but also to like, I don't know, decide for themselves because they are their own person.
Very fine line. Well said, though.
We'll go Trustee Psat and then Ms. Castillo, and then we're about a 5-minute time check.
So I actually, what Alison said makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, there are pressures and there's encouragement needed. There's even education needed for families where some may be too pushy, some may not be pushy enough, right? And so as a team, we need to kind of try to develop this program where we are encouraging people to really push themselves to where they can have a life as well as and do the best that they can. And on the flip side, we don't want students to be so burdened by their family values and the family pressure that they are getting bogged down. And from the community, I've heard a lot that, okay, we are restricting APs only to the juniors and seniors. And maybe some of the AP courses could be offered earlier so that you're not bunching 6 weighted courses, like Alison said, in your junior year just to try and get your GPA up, right? So there are different vectors, and we need to look at all of that and see what's the best that we can do. But there's a lot of feedback coming from parents as well along these lines. And perhaps not all AP courses are made equal as well, right? So when people look at AP, they are either scared or they think that they can do it and they oversubscribe. Where AP chemistry may be more difficult than AP, let's say, microeconomics. And the time commitment for each one may be different. So having more education for students, so like Alison again said, if students are informed from their freshman year as to what it means and what's the time commitment needed, then they'll be able to make the right choice. We have very smart students here, and we need to trust them to make the best decisions for themselves. So we need to empower them and inform them the right way and encourage to get to their full potential.
Thank you, Ms. Castillo. Then we'll go to Mega, and then that will be the last comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to check. I know, I think for AP classes, usually the exam is always in May, right? I was wondering if another approach to encourage more advanced and more advanced class and classes that colleges value for college applications will encouraging maybe students to take community colleges during the summer when they don't have usually as much pressure. I mean, they don't have as much load. Will that be a good approach? I think in terms of GPA, I don't think community colleges have as much value, but if hopefully colleges still find them of value when selecting who they are going to admit.
You hit upon something that's really important, is that community college classes, well, first of all, we have, I think literally thousands of students who take community colleges. The challenge is they often want them on their transcript, which is not part of our district policy. So they're taking these courses, but community college courses have a better chance of transferring. It depends on the program you're going into. Oftentimes have a better chance of transferring than AP credit. So why are students maybe not going towards community college instead of AP? And it's because of college admissions. So this is, again, one of those things that policies, unfortunately, this is an external policy that's impacting Fremont Unified. But our families, our students, our parents aren't stupid. They see that students who take more AP classes have a better chance of going to more competitive schools. It's part of the application. So that is an external encouragement to take more AP classes. Honestly, I think that's maybe the primary driver of a lot of our students who shouldn't be taking as many AP courses as they are, is the college admissions race, put in quotes. So yes, I would very much support the community college route, because not only are they getting dual enrollment credits and they're more likely to transfer, but it also, so put it this way, it's a more humane course load than it is taking 6 AP courses.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And the last comment, Megan?
Yeah, I'm like Alton, I'm also a junior, so I can definitely say that this year I've been really overwhelmed with AP courses, and I may also have oversubscribed myself, just like Mr. Musso said, because of the college admissions race. And as much as I would love to also, do dual enrollment, it isn't a secret that college admissions do value AP classes more. And so just because of the general pressure, like that's one of the reasons I took AP courses. But speaking from my perspective, I can definitely say that early on support would have been super helpful. I think Mr. Musso touched on the point that Avid takes up class space, which was an issue for me because I was interested in taking it, but there were other classes that I wanted to take, and I didn't want that to replace an elective that I could have taken. So I think that's a really important factor to consider. I don't think Avid or any student support should be limited to like that elective space in case students want to pursue other things. I think it should be offered to students, regardless of their class schedules, and to anyone who needs it, because that's the sole purpose of it. And then I know there was some discussion around the community, or like the parents and peer pressure for different ethnic groups, and that is also a really good point to bring up. I think when we're talking about solutions to that, we can't really go in with like a one size fits all approach when we're talking about informing parents. I think cultural competency is really important. I think students from different ethnic backgrounds have different accommodations or have different needs, and that is reflected in the disparities that we see. And I think they all require different sorts of support that are mindful of the ethnic identities that they have. So I think that's also something we should keep in mind.
So,
Thank you very much for all the comments. I did take some notes that I will share with Ms. Salinas. I would like to thank Mr. Musto for sticking around at the office for this meeting. So thank you very much. And I'm sure at some point this committee is going to have you come back to present possibly some new data that we might want to gather moving forward as a committee. But thank you, Mr. Musto, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of your evening, and there's not much traffic on your way home tonight. So thank you very much.
thank you all. It was a pleasure speaking with you tonight.
We're going to transition right into our next item in our agenda. First, I would like to thank up front Ms. Arroyo for once again doing the task of making these changes on the fly so we could all see it. I believe we are on number 1 or number 2 is where we left off from our last meeting. There are 9 bulleted items. So we would like to tackle those and get this as well as we can, so I could make the necessary changes. And then once again, have a review of make sure I have captured everything that has been shared or spoken about, and then bring this to the board as soon as possible. So Christina, if you could please share your screen once again. Christina, I think we were on did we get down to number 2 or number 3? Because it looks like you might have highlighted number 1, where we talk about research data.
Yeah, and then I see a blue word in number 2. So I'll be honest, I don't remember where we left off. I'll rely on the committee for that.
I could tell you when this was given to the board, number 2, courses was not on it, so it was either added by the equity team prior to this or from us at our last meeting. So can we agree that we start on number 2? We'll go with the same thing. If you have any suggestions, if you could please raise your hand on the raise a hand feature, I will do my best to call you in the queue, and then we'll have Christina make those necessary changes. Navpreet?
My only request is, can you please zoom it a little bit to make it bigger, please? That's my only request. So you can see it a little better. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Is that big enough?
Yeah, good enough for me. Thank you.
Does anybody have any suggestions for number 2?
So then maybe we can move with number 3, Mr. Bailey.
Yeah, why don't we move to number 3?
This sounds like what we were just discussing.
Yeah, exactly. I see no hands. Can we go to number 4?
I think Miss Betty, does she? I think not free. Oh, okay.
Number 4?
So there's the start and there's the end. Oh, I see hands.
Mega, and then Preet?
Yeah, I was just this is like kind of a general question to the committee, but do you guys think it's worth to specify in other supports that includes like mental health, or to specify what supports that would be?
I know I was thinking of mental health.
I was also thinking about the same thing, that we need to specify mental health, which is a big thing right now that's happening amongst our students right now.
Does anybody want to take a chance to see where we include mental health? Would it be to promote engagement, safety, and
academic, and yeah, the supports part, or other supports we could specify over there, mental health over there, and it could be one of the things that we are listing now, because mental health has become important, emotional and mental health of our students.
So could we look at social emotional learning and mental health supports?
I like the social emotional learning, Glennis. That's a
Yes.
Can you say that again, please, Glennis?
And social emotional learning and mental health supports. So it makes it just a little bit broader.
Where were you suggesting to put that?
And it says and academic and other supports. Maybe we could just say and social emotional learning and mental health supports.
Oh, my computer, my keyboard fell asleep. And others, and social.
I think we can remove other supports and put social emotional learning and mental health supports for students.
I would agree with that. Yes.
Yes.
Was that it?
Mental health.
And mental health supports.
So maybe
And were you putting too many ands there?
Yeah.
yeah.
The and between academic and social, let's take off. Yeah, right there. I have two people that raise their hand, but I can't see them because of the. So if you have any,
it was Vivek.
trustee,
Oh,
Trustee
one was
Prasad.
me.
Okay.
Trustee Prasad.
No, I suppose you want academic, comma, social, emotional.
Yeah.
And then so is it all comprehensive? Other supports was like a catch-all by being very specific. Are we excluding something that we may want to have here?
So can't we just do safety, academic, comma, social, emotional learning, comma, mental health, and other supports for students?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I'm supposed to do blue.
If you can, that would be great. If not, we will change it on our end when I look at my master.
Now, do we want the word academic before social emotional learning, or is that academic, comma, social emotional learning?
Say that again, Trustee Prasad.
So is that academic support is separate, right? So do we want a comma after that? I think.
So you want academic support?
Yes, safety, academic, and then comma, social emotional learning and mental health support.
Like this?
Yes, and then remove the and before mental health, and then put a after health, comma, and other supports for students. That's what I thought everybody said here.
Is everyone okay with number 4, how it reads now? Okay, I see no hands raised for perfect. So we'll go to number 5.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but after mental health, shouldn't there be a comma? That's all.
Yes, grammatically.
Thank you, Ms. Betty, the English teacher in you.
No, Stacy's the one who pointed it out.
Number 5.
When we are talking about diversity, do you want to bring culturally responsive, something like that over there? Instead of, are we saying adopting curriculum and instructional practices and materials that accurately or reflect the cultural diversity among student groups? Or culturally relevant instructional materials that accurately reflect the diversity among student groups. Because as such, English departments are looking into like BICOP instructional materials right now. We're looking at culturally relevant materials also there. So something like that over there.
I know when I read it, I think it depends on where you identify like student groups, because I feel like student groups is such a broad that can cover so many diverse student groups.
So should we then say reflect the cultural diversity among student groups?
When I read diversity, I think it's a huge umbrella, but when you say culture diversity, we have some learning,
okay,
and then maybe socioeconomic. So I like the broad term, this is just me, the broad term of of diversity instead of pinpointing. And then I think we'd have to pinpoint all of them. That's just me.
But all right. Can we also add practices, instructional practices, because the materials are there, but what about the instructional practices that we are talking about, that we need to have certain practices that help the diversity among our student groups?
I agree. That makes sense.
Would that be a number 8 though? Because number 8, they talk about district staff getting ongoing professional learning and professional development. Would it fit in there?
But that's giving professional development. Here you're adopting it. Here we are adopting, that they have become two different topics.
See,
so yes, Ms.
I see
Christine.
it differently, because why would we want to provide PD and provide professional learning on it if we're not encouraging it to be used?
Then we should state it also that we will be using certain different practices also.
Then maybe with number 8, we put the words, to support our students, or
yes, we can do
something like that.
Yeah, we can do that.
I don't know what the rest of the committee.
Yeah, because like if we are talking about, oh, we should have certain things that would, get our students ready. So we need to state there that we are adopting, so we are covered. Tomorrow in the policy, we can say, hey, according to the policy, we are adopting those practices also. What does everybody think?
So this is what, jumping ahead to number, that's what I heard you say, right? Navpreet and
yes,
Trustee Psat, something like
Yeah,
that.
so maybe then we want to support our diverse student group, right?
Yes.
So the diversity needs to be reflected.
Yes.
Student population. Okay. I'm looking to see, Stacy was there in the CNI committee just before this one, and we talked about some of these topics there.
Do we want to jump back to number 6 and number 7? Number 6 first? I'm not hearing any more about number 5.
Adopting curriculum that correctly reflected. Okay. Yeah, now that balances out very well.
Yeah, Christine, let's go to number 6.
Okay.
Community groups to ensure the availability of necessary support services for students in need.
Does anybody have
why
suggestions with 6?
Why do we want to narrow down students in need? Because what we have discussed in the past is that for students that are, let's say, looking for vocational training, local agencies can provide that too. So.
Is everyone okay if we struck out in need and just kept it for all students?
For all students should be there. All students.
Okay. Maybe you could add in for all students to succeed.
Thank you. So glad to hear your voice after so many years, Faria.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
Okay, Lucy?
Just in this context also, since it is a document about equity and we do want to focus, like we want to maintain focus on the students who probably need supports more. I wonder, I agree with the all students to succeed part, but I would like to, I guess, emphasize the students who have more needs in some way in the language. So if we could, like striking it out entirely, I feel like would be missing something.
So the way I look at it, Lucy, the new shift in 21st century is that whatever is being done, it is being done for all students, right? So if we say, for example, that, hey, this certain kind of instructional practice works for this subset of students. No, it should work for all those students, should be given to all students. So that's why that all students is good, that
Right. Yeah, I agree
not
that we
just
should maintain that focus for sure, but like maintain the inclusion of all students. But I feel like we'd be missing something if we didn't point out the students who are most in need in some way.
You're right, Lucy, but did you cover that in any of the other classes? This is about collaborating with local agencies and community groups. But have we covered special or whatever students in need somewhere else?
Yeah, I'm just not too sure how to phrase it, to be honest.
providing or collaborating with local agencies and community groups to ensure the availability of necessities for.
I mean, what if we revert back to students in need? Because again, it's not giving for all, it's making sure that we're giving what is needed to those who need it.
Or for all students to succeed as per required individual needs, or what do you want to put that?
Or to fulfill the needs of our students?
I don't know if it could be like this for support services for all the for the students in need and at large. So it covers everyone and specifically student in need for the collective success, something like that.
Is there a definition of what students in need means? I mean, is it, it's pretty vague, I feel. So going back to maybe kind of what Mr. Musto was talking about earlier about, certain student populations who don't have access to resources or who don't understand the resources that are available and the opportunities that they could possibly pursue. Is there a way to encompass that in this sentence somewhere?
So do you want to say providing or collaborating with local agencies and community groups to ensure the availability of necessary support services for all students in need to succeed at school?
No, but it's still pretty vague. I think like we need to maybe focus in on what students in need means. So
should we put a list of in need over next to it in brackets or something to explain that?
Or could we go ahead, Faria?
I was going to say, like, listing it also makes it way too narrow, but just having better descriptors in terms of which student populations. So student populations who maybe historically are low performing, maybe like low performing students, or students who do not have access to resources traditionally, and making sure that those students get access to those resources somehow. And that, because the purpose of collaborating with local agencies and community groups, I'm thinking perhaps like, the collaborations that we have with the city of Fremont, with the after school programs that they have at Grimmer and some of the other would be an example of something like this. That's what I'm assuming. So making sure that we identify those students and then find those local agencies who we can partner with, so that we bring those opportunities so that it's convenient for those students also to participate in those opportunities.
Or could it?
Can I
go
ask?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to ask a question. I am trying to understand: is the purpose of this item to find services that usually most of the students will have available from their family, but maybe these students in need don't really have access to them? And are we trying to say here that these services in general that are usually available to most students, are we trying to provide them for those who don't have access to them? Yeah, I don't know if this is referring to this kind of services, or
that's how I read it. I know.
Yeah.
And one thing I was going to say, going to suggest So the availability of necessary support services for what students need. I don't know if that might, because then that's addressing, individual needs, but still making sure if this is a student group that needs this, it's for what that student needs. Just a suggestion.
I like that suggestion. So it could be necessary support services for what students need to succeed.
I like that too.
For what students need.
Yeah.
Are we okay with number 6 now? Does that mean everyone's? Yeah. Okay, we'll go down to number 7 and we have 15 minutes. Number 7. This is in line of what the public comment was about today, a few of them. So are we good with number 7?
I have a question. Yeah, I guess here, if we are talking, for example, about staff, usually will be teachers, probably the main part. So I guess depending on democratic shifts, maybe is it reasonable to expect that the the diversity of the staff reflects the demographics of the students? Because I don't know, maybe some years ago there wasn't the same kind of demographics that we now have in the district. It's you understand what I mean? Maybe if we are trying to hire, I don't know, mostly teachers from a certain background that matches the students' population, maybe maybe it will be very difficult to hire that kind of teachers with that same background. Will it make sense to say that reflects the community demographics? Maybe sorry, the yeah. I guess we could probably remove a student and just say reflects the demographics of the community. Would that make sense?
Well, we do talk about student demographics of the community in there.
She's
Yeah,
suggesting to take out student.
Yeah, does
just
this
say
mean that
demographics of the community?
does this mean by using the word student, does this mean that if I don't know, if most of the students originate from a country, for example, are we going to make efforts to hire teachers mostly from that country of origin, even if you look at people available to teach don't mostly come from that country?
I mean, I'll give you the industry perspective, right? So diversity, increasing diversity is not a 1 day or 1 year problem, right? It's something that happens over 10, 15, 20 years. So there was something in the chat which says promoting the recruitment
Yes.
and retention. So I think I like the word, so that as we hire new teachers, we can, if we have multiple candidates, we can choose to increase diversity. But that does not mean that diversity will increase in the next few years.
We also had, I think, Mega and one other hand raised.
Yeah, I also wasn't sure about the wording of reflecting the student demographics of the community. Like, I was wondering if we just want to maintain the retention of a diverse staff, or a staff that is comprised of like underrepresented backgrounds or something like that, not necessarily reflective of student demographics, because we do have a majority of certain ethnic populations.
I know, oops, I gotta raise my hand. when I say a diverse staff, I think of a diverse staff. It doesn't necessarily mean if we have this percentage, it has to be that
Yes.
percentage. When I hear diverse, I think it's the
Okay.
spectrum of different diverse groups that we
Yes.
all reflected and were part of.
Okay. Then I
Yeah.
was only concerned if we
Yeah.
were going to try to hit a certain percentage. Otherwise, I'm fine with.
Because
Really.
I mean, what Sheena is saying is correct. It doesn't have to make it that in a school, if we have 70% say
Mhm.
Asians and 70% should be Asian teachers only. That's not what we mean.
Mhm.
It's mean that just to be able to respond to the cultural heritage of others, we have teachers who are there, who understand the culture of those students too. So it helps over there. Plus, again, and when you're talking of intersectionality, we have to talk about LGBTQ community teachers too.
Mhm.
Why not? You know, so that is what I think this statement has to reflect over there.
Okay.
So we
Makes
good
sense.
with 7?
There was, Greg, there was something in the chat about,
I think Glennis, can you state that? Well, I
is that
think
what you were, is that what you were saying,
Promoting the
Glennis?
recruitment.
Yeah, I think just because it really then covers the whole sort of spectrum of the process. We want to be actively recruiting a diverse
And retention of a diverse network plus
piece of that HR.
student
Is everyone okay with that
Yes.
recommendation for number 7?
Mhm.
Okay. On to number 8.
We did that already.
Mhm.
Do we have too many ands in there?
Why with ongoing research question?
No, I guess
In-
that's okay.
No, it's
number
okay.
8?
Yeah,
It's okay.
yeah,
It's okay.
yeah. Okay, number 9.
I think my only concern is address the academic outcomes. I think I want to see others, and
Yes.
I saw Kara kind of nodding her head.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. I think that
We just don't want to look at only academics. Is that what you're saying, Christina? We want to look at the whole of our students. That's what we are FUSD is aiming for, not just the academic, building them as a good, responsible citizen too. So I agree with you. We need to add to the academic outcomes. We need to add more to that. Wow, this one has too many hands.
I think the second part there, performance of all students on all indicators, covers everything.
yeah. So maybe if we did,
Maybe academic outcomes, comma, and then performance. If you remove that and does that fulfill what?
you're saying that?
Yeah.
Are we okay with number 9?
Focus on equity and address the academic and social
Okay. Let's move on to the last paragraph.
I mean, number 9 is not grammatically fully correct. I think comma is a bit out of place.
Conducting program evaluations that focus on equity. So do you want to take out that and between equity and address and put a comma instead there?
Yeah, then it'll be fine.
Say that again, please, Nafreet.
Comma after equity and strike out the and after that. That way you're listing these things like phrases, there. Yeah, that's better.
Okay, last paragraph.
Mega has her hand up.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm not sure that number 9 is still grammatically correct. I think academic outcomes and performance were meant to be grouped together. So I think just taking away the commas and keeping the ands would make it grammatically correct. Because focus and address are the two verbs, and then outcomes and performance are also grouped.
Some of the academic and all indicators, they are both qualifying the outcomes and performance. That is the issue, right? So if you remove academic to the end of the sentence.
Yeah, address here is talking about outcomes and performance. So if you wanted to keep the format as is, you would have to add another verb before performance.
Yeah, she's talking about parallelism over there.
Right, but I'm gonna.
So can we try something here? Conducting program evaluations that focus on equity, comma, address the outcomes and performance of all students on academic and other indicators and all other indicators.
No, that doesn't ring properly. Academic what? Academic is just, it needs another, it's kind of an adjective, needs a noun there with it.
Okay. So academic indicators, okay.
Conducting program evaluations that focus on equity. Focus on equity, address the academic outcomes and performance of.
Is number 9 okay now?
It's the same thing what Megha is saying. She feels that there should be a verb before performance.
Well, right, because we have conducting and we have address.
Yes. Enhance performance, something like that. I don't like the word enhance, something different there.
Or it's just conducting program evaluations that focus on equity.
Focus on equity. Address the academics and measure performance of all students on all indicators.
That would work.
Want to state that again, Christina? What'd you say?
I was just saying to end it, conducting program evaluations that focus on equity, since that's what the board policy was about. Somebody else said something else.
Oh, I added there that if we want to have another verb there, then we can say, and measure performance of all students on all indicators.
I just don't know if addressing outcomes and then measuring performance.
Then if we take out the comma after outcomes, that address is referring to performance also then.
Megha, I think your hand's raised.
Yeah, I was just, a suggestion was maybe conducting program evaluations that focus on or that maintain equity by addressing, or that measure equity by addressing the academic outcomes and performance of all students on all indicators.
Say that again, Megha.
Conducting program evaluations that focus on equity by addressing the academic outcomes and performance of all students on all indicators, or replacing focus with like measuring or maintaining equity.
No, by is a good word, what you said.
Sorry, Megha, can you say it one more time? I'm trying to move as fast as I can.
Yeah.
Focus on equity by addressing.
Yeah.
Outcomes and performance of all students on all indicators. This is okay now.
I don't know. That's fine. I'm just
Looks
saying
better.
of students on all indicators instead of all students on all indicators.
Mhm.
Of students, is everybody okay with
Yes.
taking out this? Okay.
Yes.
So then are we ready to move on to the last paragraph?
Mhm.
Does anybody have any suggestions
Yeah.
for the last paragraph?
The board should regularly monitor the intent and impact of district policies and decisions in order to safeguard against disproportionate or unintentional effects on access to district programs and achievement goals for specific student populations in need of services.
Lucy, I see.
Yeah.
This is somewhat of a clarification question. I think I regularly see the word regularly in board documents. I'm just wondering what that usually means.
Well, this means hopefully if it passes as it's written here, that all the new policies that will be brought forward, the board is going to have a lens on some type of equity focus on how that language is written into it. So when we bring additions to or change board policies, that's when the board would have to do that, because we have thousands and thousands of board policies. So it's not something we would say we're going to review all of our policies. But when they come forward to the board, I think the board would have to have this lens on that policy. So it all depends on when changes. Like in my department, we make sure that we are up to date to the new laws that might affect some of our policies.
So when we say achievement goals for specific student populations in need of services, and we're talking of equity, isn't equity for everybody? And here we are saying for a specific student population.
We could just take off specific and just leave student, have we been doing in all the other ones, just put students.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because our goals are for everybody in our district, irrespective of which community they are or who they are.
So then do we keep populations or do we just say for students in need of services?
Students is also fine.
Yep. I would get rid of populations.
Everybody else good with that? Okay.
I like Kara shaking her head. She's tired.
Are we good on that last paragraph? Okay. The following pages we can't change. Those are all education codes, penal codes, code of regulation, CCR codes that we just make sure we put in there. So I think this is good. My department will clean this up and show it to everybody on how this will be presented to the board, because the board has to see it in certain font colors, strike throughs, and then the board ultimately will have the last say on the verbiage. So they might ask that the committee take a look at it, and I will say, yes, they have. This is their recommendation, but sometimes the board trustees may change a word or two, and then we'll have to bring it back for a third read. But I do want to thank everybody's participation in this. I want to thank Christina Arroyo again and again for trying to keep up with this and sharing your screen. So thank you very much. We accomplished a lot tonight, and I know even the public comments said we spent a lot of time on this equity policy, which we have. This is a brand new policy for our district. So I think this is a good first step that we are taking. But now the real work has to begin on how we're going to make sure that these changes come in place. So I thank you for your time and your commitment. And then once this gets approved, we will share it with the community at large, and in particular this committee. I do not have a date on when this will go to the board, but I imagine it would be somewhat quickly. So I'd imagine in the next 2 board meetings, they'll probably have the second and hopefully final read to this board policy. But I thank you for your time. I will have Letty email possible some agenda items for the next meeting. I believe our next meeting is May 18th. Once again, we'll be done via Zoom.
Oh, thank God.
I wish everybody a restful rest of the week. I know the weather kind of changed on us today, quite drastically, actually. But hopefully you enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you on May 18th. Everyone else, have a good night.
Mr. Bailey, can I speak to you alone?
Yes.
It's something to do not with this committee.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Zamora, if you could stop live streaming.
Thank you for moving to Zoom. It's so much easier than Google Meet. So are we off?
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Luis, are we off now?
You know what? When you click on the right-hand corner, there are 3 dots. See if you can put the person in the waiting room.
But I want to make sure he's not live streaming.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I'll call you tomorrow.
Yeah, I can talk to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
After 2, please. After my office hours.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.